Okay, hello, I'm Willa, and my topic today is children learned violent behaviors by watching violence, and I will explain it with the definition of social learning theory. So, before today's presentation, I would like to ask you a question. Like, have you ever watched any movies which are bloody and aggressive? And how do you feel when you are watching them? And please keep your thoughts in mind, and let's start it. And I will begin with the Pandora's Bob door experiment, which did in 1961. And in this study, the children who were in this study demonstrate that most children would behave mostly in the same way that what they just watched. For example, Pandora did this study in two different ways. One was he divided children into two groups. One group of children who they watched the adult who was punching the door, being aggressive. And in the second group, children were looking at adult being kind to the door. While Pandora separated children into some single room and let them to stay with some toys and a door, he finds out that all children were frustrated, but they were acting differently. The children in the first group were very emotional and they hit the door to relieve their feelings. And some of their actions were just as same as what the adult did. Oppositely, the children from the second group were like they were very nice to the door. They were holding it and stay with the door. And because that is exactly what the adult did when they were watching. Then, from this study, Pandora finds that the individuals which we were watching are like the models, the models for observers. And when we were watching, thinking and learning is also happening. For example, children who haven't formed a independent perception and they are also surrounded by many influential models such as their parents, friends, teachers, or even the characters in the TV program. So these models provide examples of behaviors for children to observe and maybe encode later on. Therefore, sometimes the model's behaviors might shape children's cognitions. For example, in this study, if you are at the first time saw the Bob door and you didn't know how to play it, and then you saw someone who are hitting it, and you might think, okay, that is what I should do to play it. So infer from this, if someone behave badly, the children might imitate their behaviors and being bad as well. Therefore, Pandora figures out that this is a new process of learning that people didn't realize previously, which we called the social cognitive learning. And Pandora insists that individuals are learning through observing the environment. So our living environment is imperative for our development. Like, can you imagine what will happen if those children are staying and grow up with aggressive parents or they were watching violence on TV every day? And this theory is affecting a lot nowadays because as the rapid, rapidly developing of technology, children has more access to internet, also to observe violence. Like they can watch on television or violent films, even by playing violent video games. And there is a survey in United States in 2005. The study found that 49% children from age 8 to 18 had the game console in their bedroom. So their parents is not easy to restrict what they are doing or what they are playing. And based on that survey, there is another study which indicates that the violence is the key element in video games, which they did in 2001. They find that almost 90% of the games contain with some violent content, and 40% of games include serious violent, like they are against other characters. And individuals might enjoy violent movies because the violent images themselves invoked pleasure or are related to things that they are enjoyed. Like you like playing games, and because some of their images are related to the things that you are enjoying. And do you remember I asked you a question before the presentation? When you are watching some violent movies like boxing match, or even when you are playing video a violent video games, what do you feel? Are you feeling so excited, or do you feel your emotions are engaging with these characters? And there are some studies indicated that playing video games could reduce people's stress score, which they got from the real life. However, in XMS study, he and his colleagues find that that is not true, because the more irritative images you watch would increase the level of sensation seeking, and even though and they might cause your mm, violent behaviors later on, even though your aim to play video games is to relieve your stress for. But and what and you might ask me what do I mean the sensation seeking? So I will give you an example to explain it. It's from my own experience. Like I like criminal movies or criminal novel. Previously, every time when I'm watching or reading, every part of the plot might scared me, and I was feared when I'm watching or reading. But I like it because it's so exciting. But after 1 month watching and reading, I felt some normal crimes couldn't attract me anymore. And the normal crimes here is means some general killers or kidnapper. Like I I want to watch something more serious, like the serial killers or some intelligent crime, and like the ensemble with the very high IQ. So I think in this circumstance, my sensation seeking is increasing because I I couldn't find the previous one which I watched or I read is exciting anymore. And in this study, they find that the violent video games will bring us these feelings. Like they interview their samples, and those people they explain themselves like they are playing violent video games, and they are feeling like I like to do frightening things, and I like new exciting experiments even if I have to break the rule. So therefore in their study they find there is a very close connections between violent video gaming and delinquent behaviors. And they did this study by ask them to complete the questionnaire which they provided, and they will connect the data. And the question were about the asking them, are you threatened someone with knife or other weapons? Are you physically attacked them when the intentions of hurting them? And they find this is a significant relations of correlation between violent video gaming and delinquent behavior. And the number which they got about the non-violent video gaming was less than the the violent video gaming, which causes the delinquent behaviors. So, and that is not the only factor, and which the other factor they find out from this study, which is even much more higher than the violent video gaming, is the peer delinquent. Like when your friend did in such way, and you will have a very high possibilities to behave in that way. Like, because we are observing others and we are in we might encode others' behaviors. That is what they find in this study. And some people are also arguing that because they thought the genetical or the hereditary influence also affecting individuals significantly. For instance, then they think there are some genes such as the MAWA, we call the Willa genes, and the XYY, the Superman syndrome, because these genes would affect person's serotonin or dopamine, which might cause people being antisocial or aggressive. But in Rover's study, they proved that the genetical influence do not affect a lot. And they did study in 216 twins. They were identical twins and fraternal twins. And they did the study in a similar way as the Pandora study. They let children watching adults hitting the bulb door, and then they asked them to do activities. They record their reactions in many different ways, like the numbers of hits and intensity of hits, numbers of aggressive vocalization. In their results, they figure out the range of correlation between identical twins and the fraternal twins. They compare with these two different numbers and they find the correlation of identical twins is not too much greater than the fraternal twins. And in other three parts of study, they got almost the same result with each other. So Rover indicates that there is no differences between identical twins and fraternal twins. And also, particularly, identical twins are identical genetically. They are sharing the same genes. Therefore, if the genetical influence affect us a lot, so they must be being in the same way, but they are different. So the differences within pairs of identical twins can only be caused by environmental influence. For example, they might have different experiences which influence them differently, so they are reacting differently. To conclude, watching violence and being violence is a specific part of social learning theory which was figured out by Pandora's study, and it can be proved that individuals' personality or behaviors are influenced by others because all of us are staying in the society and we are receiving and acquiring information by observing others. As I mentioned before, when we are observing, learning and thinking is also happening. The things we accept might shape our cognition as well. As well, our cognition is formed, we will behave in the way what we are thinking, particularly for the children who haven't formed an independent cognition to distinguish the right or wrong. Therefore, they are more likely to be misleading by the bad things, which they observed and then they might behave badly in the future. Therefore, the theory is not only displaying a social condition but also highlight the importance of our surroundings. Thank you for listening.